$23 million is what it costs the Dolphins to not only retain Tua this coming year, that would be year 4, but more importantly, the following year, that would be year 5. Remember, Tua missed 5 games last season due to a concussion. This was a huge message the Dolphins are sending by picking up the 5th-year option. What it means, number 1, dismiss all the Lamar Jackson nonsense. The Dolphins ain't in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. Dismiss the Aaron Rodgers nonsense. The Dolphins are not in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. But more importantly, it sends a message not only to Tua, but the entirety of the Miami Dolphins that, hey, we have our guy for the next couple years. We got our guy. We believe that he will return healthy. If we didn't believe he would return healthy, you wouldn't pick up the option, not for 2023, but for 2024. So we believe that Tua will return healthy. And also, when Tua's healthy, he balls. He led the NFL in passer rating. Make no mistake about just how efficient Tua Tagovailoa is. Also, remember, the Dolphins started at 7-3. The Dolphins beat the Ravens. The Dolphins beat the Bills. The Dolphins played some really, really good football this season. So when Tua is healthy and Tua is out there on the football field, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the entirety of the National Football League. So by picking up the 5th-year option, you calm all the noise and the chaos that exists in so many other franchises. You say you have your guy, and you send a message, not just to the locker room, but a message that really resounds throughout the entirety of the National Football League on where the Dolphins stand with Tua, and they stand in the right place. But, Joy, you are the resident Miami Dolphins fan. You lived in Miami for a while. I won't age you. I've already made that mistake once. You lived in Miami for a while.
You have a harder time with Joy than you do with me.
Joy, what does the Dolphins picking up Tua's 5th-year option? What's that breaking news mean?
I love it. Commit to Tua. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. How many other guys, we were talking about it before we came on, how many other guys have been linked to this position since Tua's been there? Send a message to Tua as the guy. Stop having us in this conversation about sweepstakes for this and this person and this trade for this. And is Tua going to come back? First of all, you answered the question if he's going to come back healthy, as you just mentioned. Obviously, the Dolphins feel like he is healthy enough to be the starter again next year. They're having very serious conversations with his doctors throughout the off-season, so they have their answer there. But also, this is smart money-wise. We don't know if Tua is the long-term future for the Dolphins. I think even the biggest Tua advocates this year had questions about that. But if he comes back healthy, if he's available, they win games. He's a winner. He's an efficient passer. He's clearly a leader. And now he can be comfortably the face of the organization. It's also really smart. This is what the Giants didn't do. Daniel Jones played well enough for a big contract, and now they kind of had to give it to him. If you have to franchise tag Tua next year instead of picking up his option, it will be around $43 million. Yeah, that 23.2 sounds a lot better than 43, especially if you're not sure what you're going to do with him. So long-term, this makes sense in the next few years, knowing what the money is going to be to build around him, and you're securing Tua a spot as the franchise quarterback. 2-5, talk to me, man. What does this news mean, not just for Tua, for the Dolphins, for the league, all of it?
Yeah, it means a lot, man, for the Dolphins, right? They constantly show that they want Tua as their guy, as a quarterback. You make a move like this, give him his 5th-year option, you don't have to worry about, like, oh, is he part of the plans for the future? And you have enough time. I think this is a great thing because for the team and Tua, Tua gets $23 million, right? And then for the team, it's super expensive for the quarterbacks. Yep. $23 million is nothing for real. And I think that now you get a more time to really develop Tua. Like, I think Tua's a hell of a player, but he's been injured. I mean, if we look at his track record, you know, he's missed, 5 games due to concussion, right, last year. And then the year before that, he missed, 4 or 5 games for a rib and a finger issue. So I think you have that period of time where, okay, let's give him a trial run, right? We know he can play well, but can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, I think he'll get a bigger contract, eventually. But if he can't, you have him there with the $23 million, and if he can't do it, he might not be for the future.
Shady, take me into the player's perspective, because what so many at home don't realize, Daniel Jones, first-round pick, he had to go into this year knowing it's his contract year. Right. Now, that's great maybe for linebackers, for edge rushers, maybe even for running backs, that extra bit of motivation. You saw a running back for the Raiders, remind me his name.
Josh Jacobs.
Yep, running back for the Raiders. He balled this year, his contract year. 1,600 yards rushing, he gonna get paid. But for a quarterback, it's probably a little bit more sensitive having to go into the last year knowing it's a contract year. Speak specifically for the player of Tua. How much does this mean knowing, okay, I can exhale. This next year's not my contract year. They believe in me. Yeah. I can breathe.
Well,
talk about that.
I think it's a sense of, like, insurance, right? Like, okay, this team wants me. I have time here. Where when you're on that bubble, you talk about, like, going to free agency, it's like, yo, if I don't ball out, they might get rid of me. I might have to relocate. You know, your kids might go to school somewhere. Like, you start thinking of everything Where now, when they pick up that fifth-year option, it's like, okay, I'm going to be here. I'm with my team. I have some guarantee here, and like, it eases your mind at night. But on the flip side, I got to be honest, man. Like, I know some players who, on that bubble, when they have one more year left in their contract, and they got to ball out to get a new deal. I do like Deshaun Jackson was great at it. Kirk Cousins, another one great at it. Like, okay, the money's coming back. I'm betting on myself. They ball out, they hit the market, they get paid. So it works both ways. I think a guy like Tua, though, who, and I love Tua, but I think he lacks confidence sometimes. And you've seen that with the previous teams. You know, the head coaches, they didn't want to just automatically say, yo, Tua's our guy. And he was up and down, where you got like McDaniel, a coach like him, who comes in there and gives you the keys. Look, I want to go as far as you take as your team. And you see the difference on the way Tua played when he know that the coach is behind him.
Yeah, it means that Tua has convinced them to change the message. Because to Joy's point, like a year ago, we were talking about who are they going to get to replace Tua. Tua was not the answer. And I don't know that they're convinced that he is the answer now, but he showed them enough that they're willing to find out or give him another year. And I believe it also doubles down on the perspective of Mike McDaniel being a player's coach and the message that it sends to every other NFL player in the league. Because it's not just that Tua has been injured. It's that Tua got concussed. And Tua got concussed out there trying to ball and carry this team.
Right.
And if I'm another NFL player and I see the Miami Dolphins going, you know what? We're a little bit party to the fact that there's questions about your future as an NFL player. Let us give you another year to find your way back. I think that sends a very meaningful message to every other player in the NFL in a league where we generally look at it and go, hey, they don't care. If you can play, you're their boy. And if you can't, then we're going to move on and go with someone else. So in a lot of ways, I think this does, I think Tua earned it. I think it makes financial sense, but I also like the way the light that it puts the Miami Dolphins in that they're going to take care of him as much as they can, considering their part and why he is questionable moving forward.
And don't get it twisted. The fifth-year option really is a cheat code for NFL franchises that benefits them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The 2011 CBA was the CBA where now all of a sudden first-round picks, they had a 4-year deal with a fifth-year option. Why that fifth-year option? It's something that Joy mentioned earlier. When you have that fifth-year option, rather than having to pay a quarterback after 4 years, now you can buy time. $23 million is dirt for a quarterback. Imagine what Daniel Jones is going to be making in the 2024 season. Daniel Jones in the 2024 season is going to be making roughly $40 million. You could say 41, given the fact that he has, I believe, $81 or $82 million guaranteed. Meanwhile, Tua's going to be making $23 million.
Yeah.
Imagine what Kyler Murray is going to be making in that 2024 season. Meanwhile, Tua is going to be making just $23 million. Dolphins, in my mind, it is brilliant to pick it up if you assume Tua will be healthy. Joy, I don't think you've missed one of Tua's games since he's entered the league. You watch the Dolphins every single Sunday. You watch them closely. Do you like the Dolphins picking up that fifth-year option?
Yeah, I do. I think from the business side of it, it makes sense, as you just mentioned. We all just watched what happened with the Giants. And it was right for the Giants not to pick up the option. We didn't know what Daniel Jones was. Brian Daboll has transformed his career and his, generational wealth in that way. But the Dolphins saw that they didn't want to be in that situation. Now, I think Tua is much better than Daniel Jones, and he's shown to have a much higher ceiling, so it would make sense to do that anyway. But it also puts you in a better financial position. It gives you more time to negotiate with Tua. And let's be honest, we need to see if Tua is going to stay healthy this season. If Tua has another season where he misses multiple games, there's going to be real questions about whether he can be the franchise guy moving forward. So this gives Tua a solid base, a financial base, and it gives the Dolphins a space to evaluate and have a real it gives the Dolphins stability. That to me is what it feels like, because the Dolphins never really have an answer. There's always questions about who they're bringing in. Is Tua going to be the guy? This just gives you stability. Let's build on what we were doing last year. Let's stay healthy and see how far we can go with it.
You know the business of the NFL. You've been watching it long enough. You've covered it long enough. Shady hit the nail on the head earlier. Tua, the biggest question around him is not his talent. The biggest question around him is his health. Go back to his last year at Alabama. He dislocated his hip. We did not know if he would play football again and to what degree he would play football again. Sure. Then go back to his rookie year with the Dolphins. He was still coming off that injury. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was Tua. Then his second year with the Dolphins, if I am not mistaken, I was not covering them as closely at the time. I believe it was Jacoby Brissett. He was Tua, Tua rib, Tua hand. Then this last year with the Dolphins, Tua concussion. Do you think, though, Joy, that given Tua's injury history, it may be fiscally irresponsible to tether yourself to a quarterback for an additional year if you don't know if that quarterback can make it through an additional season? Well,
this isn't going to kick in until the year after next anyway.
Correct.
So this year he's making 9.5. It'll be 9.6 million against the cap hit, if I'm not mistaken. You already said it. 23 million is not a lot of money, considering that the franchise tag would be 43 million. That's a deal. Wow. If you need to move off of Tua, if it's a disaster this season, which I don't think it will be, and I don't think the Dolphins think it will be, but let's just say he's not healthy another year and you're like, okay, we can't keep doing this. It's $23 million. You could sign a whole additional quarterback with that rate. Like that's nothing compared to what you're paying top 10, top 15 guys in the market right now. So it's not really fiscally irresponsible. We've already seen that there's really no deal that can't be moved anyway. Anyone can be traded. Anything can be moved around. They can make the money work if they want to make it work. But this is either way. They could bring in somebody else, a veteran, if they wanted to, and still be able to pay Tua with this rate.
Well, Dolphins, you got your guy at least for the next 2 years. What that also means, Lamar Jackson, he's out of the sweepstakes. It changes up the whole quarterback dynamic.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.